Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by, and boy have I got some catching up to do out here. Nothing's seen a drink since Friday, and it's Tuesday today. I don't think I've ever left my plants that long. That was just circumstances, and I thought we've had no sun, so there's been no heat in here. The humidity's good permanently, so, you know. And given it's the mounts and things like the cattleyas that go in the bucket that I worry about when I can't water, at this time of year, you know, there's a fair few of the mounted dendrobiums are not getting much water anyway because they're going into their winter rest, and the others will just have to think their throat's been cut and they'll get some water today. But I'm into that period with the mounts now where I've got mounts actively growing, some producing spikes that still need feeding, and then I've got resting or dendrobiums that are going into their winter rest that aren't getting any more food but still need a drink heading towards December when it'll be cut right down. So I have got watering to do today. No pots need watering, they're fine. They're going 6-7 days now between waterings. A little bit more frequently for the holy clay pots, obviously, because they need to dry out in between waterings, but a lot of them are actively growing. You know, the cattleyas are producing sheaths and maturing new growths and stuff, so I don't want to leave them dry too long. But again, you know, with the lower temperatures, they're not going to suffer any. But I do need to crack on. I've got a couple of things I'd like to show you out here. I'll be doing a repotting session later today, but I'll probably produce that video and post that tomorrow morning. So, yeah, what was I going to say? Come on, concentrate. More coffee. This little Restrepia, which I probably won't be able to get in true focus. This is Restrepia gutulata. That's its first ever bloom for me. It did try previously, but it blasted. But what's special about this one is, first of all, it was a present from Oliver a few years ago as a tiny little plant, and it has been very slow to grow, I must admit. But it's one of the few Restrepias where the fused sepals that normally form a single entity is actually forked. It just makes it a little bit unusual. Lovely patterning on it. As I say, I haven't seen this one before, so yeah, well impressed with that. And at long last, it's been a bit slow to get going, that one. My rhodostictum buds are swelling nicely now. They're nowhere near full size yet because despite this being a small plant, and certainly most of my other Latoria types do have small blooms, this one, for its size of the plant, has actually got quite large blooms. So I'm really looking forward to that. 4 blooms on that spike, and another spike coming up on one of the older canes. So that's to come relatively soon. The little cattleya up here, the first bloom is still hanging on. There were 2, one's gone, but the other ones are just opening now. So you'll have a little succession there. What else? Well, I must show you this bud. I'm gonna keep filming this. If I miss this bloom, I'm gonna go mad. But this bud on this Epidendrum nocturnum is now. You can see what we're looking forward to, can't you? If you look at this, the length of that bud, when that opens, you can get an impression of what the flower's going to look like, size-wise anyway. But as I've said before, this one's got a party piece. It self-pollinates incredibly easily. So often the blooms open and they pollinate almost immediately and collapse. So I've really got to watch that one. As soon as that opens, I've got to get it on film. It is also branching, and the old spike is also pushing out again. So I must remember not to cut the spikes on that one. Yeah, coming on. And as I said, I need to crack on with the watering here. This is a nice proof of the pudding, I suppose you could call it. This was repotted in full bloom. Quite a few of the older spikes with not many blooms left were cut off. And this spike was in a state of blasted when I got the plant. Not sure why. I mean, the rest of the plant's okay. But this was the telltale spike. This was the one that was just in infancy. And to sort of prove the point that you don't necessarily lose bloom, spikes or buds or anything like that by repotting in full bloom, it's now opening. So this spike has pushed on and opened irrespective of the repot. Now, if you had a plant that had very, very poor roots and you did that, you may well lose your buds. Yeah, because it's basically struggling to stay alive, anyway, because of its lack of roots, therefore lack of hydration and food. And it'll abort the buds on the grounds it's trying to stay alive. So, you don't always get this sort of luck. But this didn't have bad roots when it was repotted, so it's done okay. Right, I shall get on with my watering, and I'll see you again later. As I said, I've got quite a busy day, and I will have a kitchen session later today, so that'll come up tomorrow morning. I'll get that ready later today, so that'll be ready to post tomorrow. I'm glad everybody enjoyed the Writhlington video. It is quite a luxury, quite a pleasure to be allowed to look round that School Orchid Project's orchid glass houses. They have an open day, normally only once a year. I think occasionally it might be twice. So it is open to the public very occasionally. But because this event was hosted there, they were open to the public. So it was quite a pleasure to look round there. And although last summer I went there, because that was their public open day, the glasshouses were being manned by the children, by the students. So obviously I couldn't video. You can't take pictures of youngsters and post it on YouTube. You're just not allowed. You've got to get parental consent and all sorts of stuff. So that was a no-no last time. I took stills and put them together as a slideshow. But without the moving video, you just cannot get the spectacle, the sheer scale of the size of some of those orchids. But by being able to film this time, obviously I tried to do it as a walkthrough, just a video as though you were strolling through the glasshouses yourself. So you get to see the benches and, some people here and there, including one that was a little annoyed to be included. Tough. Hopefully the sheer scale of the size of some of their specimen plants came over in that video. It is a very special place, and anybody who's interested in that, go to the website. I have put the link in the description. I'm sure there's loads of people never read the descriptions, but there's often some stuff in there to follow on, and if you go to their main web page, there's like a column of headings, a vertical column of headings. There's some really interesting stuff if you start digging down in there, including a video called Country File. The heading is Country File. It's a BBC programme that's on every week virtually, and they did a spotlight on the glasshouses and interviewed Simon Pugh-Jones, the guy who's organised it all and got it going and kept it going. And in that video, one of the students, Jess, actually talks about that plant that may be the last one left in the world and how special that actually is. So that, as I said, there's some good stuff in there. There's all about the Rwandan project and their conservation efforts around the world. So it's a good read. There's some good stuff and some interesting pictures. So it's a site worth exploring. And just go to the main page and have a quick look and think, oh, is that it? No, it's not. All those headings open up into more information. So it's worth a read. There's some very interesting stuff, and they are doing some incredible work around the world. I mean, they set up orchid displays in some of the UK botanical gardens, and some of those students go out and do lectures. It's an amazing thing what they've got going there, and I just hope it lasts forever, quite honestly, because that collection is priceless. The actual orchids, it's just a priceless collection. Could not be repeated anywhere, I don't think. So have a look round, and I'll see you later. Thanks for dropping by. I just thought I'd add this on the end. There's an interesting point behind it. This is one of the dendrobiums out of the big box that didn't look very happy at all, but it was certainly made up for it since then, and it's one that's had no tag. So every time I come across it, I always sort of think, yeah, I've done the tag. I haven't attached it to the plant yet, but having done it, it's in my head now. This is a primary cross. The hybrid is called Kanako or something like that. But it's basically Goldschmidtianum crossed with Dendrobium Victoria Virginiae AE. Now I got corrected twice at the Writhlington School, once by one of the children, emphatically, you know, as though I was stupid, and also by Simon Pugh Jones. I'm not arguing with him. But basically, I was after one. Victoria Reginae, or however we're going to say it, we'll make our minds up in a minute. I've been after for a while, but this is a primary cross with that in it. And when I asked about, have you got any for sale, have you got any young plants, because I thought if I get it from Writhlington, I'm guaranteed it's the real thing, because I've been conned with a couple of hybrids in the past, purporting to be the real thing, and I want the real thing. But anyway, this is a hybrid. It's going to bloom soon. Buds are pushing out, nice little cluster. But when I actually asked about it, both of them corrected me and said, Victoria Regina? Well, yes, that's the Queen's name, but the plant has a Latin name. So you'll have to make your own minds up how you want to pronounce that. I'll do the pop-up with the correct spelling, and it is Latin, so it should adhere to Latin pronunciation rules. But having been corrected twice on the trot by people who do know, apparently it should be said Victoria Regina, as in Queen Victoria. Anyway, make your own minds up. But this is growing well at the moment, and we are going to get some blooms, and they will be interesting, because they could, in theory, be blue. Yeah? I mean, I say blue in quotes, because Victoria Reginae, which is how I'm going to carry on saying it for now anyway, I might change my mind, I'm going to do some work on that, is noted to be a blue orchid, you know, the nearest to blue you're going to get in stuff that's generally available anyway. But it is variable in colour, possibly due to light intensities and possibility of acidity in the media. That can have an effect on colour. So we'll see what this comes out like, but it is going to bloom. That's the main interesting point. Plus the debate on pronunciation. You know, all the species have a Latin name and should therefore adhere to those rules. But as I say, I got stood down in no uncertain terms. So we'll see what the Goldschmidtianum crossed with Victoria Regina is going to look like soon. See you next time.